What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. We are here on the SEC channel at the Voice of College Football. We're previewing each SEC team's schedule, and Ole Miss is up next on the list. Ole Miss coming off of a great season, making it to the Sugar Bowl. And before we get to this 2022 schedule, let's look back at 2021. This was the schedule for Ole Miss in 2021. Two road games wound up tripping them up. Alabama and Auburn on the road. But you look at the schedule for them, they had Louisville and Atlanta, Austin Peay, Tulane, and Liberty. So not too tough of a non-conference schedule there, but it's respectable. I mean, Louisville is a Power 5 team. Liberty was a good team. So it was a respectable non-conference schedule. And then you look at who they played out of the East. They had to play on the road at Tennessee in what turned out to be a really tough game. And then Vanderbilt. Of course, they play Vanderbilt every year. So here is the schedule for 2022. Before we go game by game, let's look at who they play outside of the division this year. And it is a pretty easy non-conference schedule. Troy, Central Arkansas, at Georgia Tech, and Tulsa. Georgia Tech, an ACC team, a Power 5 team, but not a team that is expected to be, a top 25 team or anything like that. Tulsa has had some decent years here in the past, so it's a very similar non-conference schedule to what they had last year. And then you look at the schedule against the East. They play Kentucky at home and on the road at Vanderbilt. Kentucky going to be a good team. That's going to be a test, I think, for Ole Miss. The good news is they get that game at home. I think you'd rather have that game at home and have to go to Vanderbilt, which is obviously not a very tough place to play, than have to go to Kentucky and get Vanderbilt at home. So that works out really well for them. A good cross-division matchups for them, and then good non-conference games as well. So they will kick off the season on September 3rd against Troy. It's a respectable team, a group of 5 team, but it's not a team that has any business beating Ole Miss this year. Central Michigan should be an easy win. Then they'll have Georgia Tech on the road and Tulsa on the 24th. So all 4 of their non-conference games will be right there at the beginning of the season. 4 games to kind of get ready for that SEC conference schedule, which will open up with Kentucky on October the 1st. Tough way to start it there. And then they'll play Vanderbilt on the 8th. So really interesting schedule here for Ole Miss. They play their non-division games in their first 6 games. So they'll play 6 non-division games, and then they'll play 6 straight division matchups, it's just very interesting. I don't know if I've ever really seen this before, which means they have a very good shot. I mean, Kentucky's going to be a tough game, but they have a good shot of starting off 6-0 before ever playing a division game, and then they start that gauntlet, and we'll find out about Ole Miss after that. Yeah, they could start 6-0, but they could lose some games after that as well, because the schedule is going to be tough after that Vanderbilt game. They'll have Auburn at home on October 15th, the revenge game for Ole Miss. Then they'll go on the road to face LSU on the 22nd, and then on the road to face Texas A&M on the 29th. So back-to-back road games, very tough there. Then they get a bye week. So they'll get a bye week kind of late in the year compared to some of the other teams in the SEC. It'll be actually in November 5th. They'll have that bye week before playing Alabama. If Ole Miss turns out to be a good team this year, they're going to have Alabama at home coming off a bye week. There's going to be a lot of hype around that game. Even if they just win 2 of the 3 against Auburn, LSU, and Texas A&M, and they start off 6-0, they could be sitting there with 1 loss on November 12th, getting Alabama at home. That could turn out to be a huge, huge game. Then after that, it's Arkansas on the road. That'll be a tough matchup as well. And then, of course, they will close things out in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State on Thanksgiving once again this season. So the first half of the schedule, it's one of the easier schedules that I think you could have in the SEC. For any SEC team, when you look at those first 6 games, you're saying, wow, this is nice. This is a pretty easy start to the schedule. But then after that, there is no let-up. Auburn, at LSU, at Texas A&M, Alabama, at Arkansas, and Mississippi State. And really the middle of that, LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Arkansas, those 4 games are going to be extremely difficult. Good news is you get a bye week right in between those 4 games. But again, we're going to find out about Ole Miss once we get into October. We're not going to know much even in the first part of October. Once we get to the end of October, that's when we will find out about this Ole Miss team. a schedule that starts easy but finishes really tough in 2022.